You're listening to the Yoga Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Land. This podcast brings you information and resources to enhance the therapeutic effects of your practice based on a deeper understanding of anatomy, physiology, and the integration of modern science and research with traditional practices and experiences. Join me and my co-hosts Tiffany Cruikshank and Katya Bach as we dive into all things yoga, research, and wellness. Hello and welcome, or welcome back to the Yoga Medicine Podcast. Despite the proliferation of big-name businesses and online options, grassroots, locally owned yoga studios are still the beating heart of the yoga world. They are the place where most of us got our start in asana, pranayama, or meditation, where we received our first introductory nuggets of yoga philosophy, and where many of us were inspired to teach. But as I hinted, things have been changing rapidly in the yoga studio landscape, especially over the past few years. We thought it would be worth checking in with some yoga medicine studio owners to hear their thoughts and to have them share their experiences from across the globe. So today's conversation of the podcast is a little different. It's a panel discussion between various studio owners. You'll hear the voices of Anne Eberhardt of Bubble Yoga in Switzerland, Ashley Goodnecht of Good Yoga in Norfolk, Virginia, Dana Diamant of Lennox Yoga in Lennox Head, Australia, Lisa Hamra of My Yoga Room in Malmö, Sweden, Rachel Workman of Longview Yoga Wellness in East Texas, and Shannon Stevens of This Land Yoga in Oklahoma City. So let's get the conversation started. Well, hello all, and welcome to the Yoga Medicine Podcast. Thank you so much for making time for us today. And I won't stop and pause for you to say anything because there's many of you and that will probably get messy. So we're going to talk today about the current state of the nation, multiple nations in yoga studios, and what has changed for you all in the past few years. So let's kick off with that question specifically. How have things changed for your studio over the past few years? And maybe we'll start with Dana.
Firstly, we sort of opened kind of mid-COVID, actually, in this like blissful period that we had in Australia where COVID just wasn't that big of a deal yet. So we experienced all of that. And then in the last few years, we've definitely seen a lot more people coming back into the studio, people changing their habits from practicing online to wanting to be in community with other people. So it's been really lovely to have that busyness as well as just a lot of people around. And so the group classes have definitely come back to life like pretty strongly.
And what about workshops and trainings and kind of bigger, juicier offerings?
Yeah, I think initially right after COVID, we found that those were really popular. People were really wanting those juicy offerings and to go a little bit deeper. But I think sort of not just our studio, but just everyone, we all probably went pretty gung-ho, really excited to have so much on offer. And I feel like maybe in the last 6 months, people have started feeling inundated and saturated. And there's just so much, especially where our studio is in this area, there's just so much on offer. So lately, I feel like the workshops have gotten better. The events need to be really, really special and something quite different for people to want to attend an event. But the trainings are slowly growing, slowly.
I have no barometer because I opened my studio, or I didn't open my studio, I'm sorry. I took over ownership of my studio March 1st, 2020. And so I was in the process of purchasing, of going through the purchasing process, way before anybody was talking about really what was happening with COVID. So we opened March 1st and I closed March 16th, as per every yoga studio in the nation. And I was very lucky to have a lot of people support me through that. A lot of the students supported us through that because I was not prepared to go online or any of those things. And so I guess what's changed is I've gone through every cycle of everything. I began doing YouTube classes, and then we did that to begin with, and then We went to hybrid Zoom when we could come back. Some people came back in person and some people came back to Zoom. And then what's happened just over the last year or two is that most people don't want to do Zoom where I am. They want to come into in-person classes. So that's probably been the biggest thing. And the other thing was we started a senior class because a lot of the studios around us and gyms that had senior programs shut all of those down. And all of those senior people didn't have any place to go. And we were just really fortunate to be a landing place for them. So that's the biggest things, I think, over the last 5 years or 4 years.
Has that been a common experience for other studios that initially people were looking for online options, but since then there's a real want to return to in person?
Yeah, I can say, yeah, that's been my case too. We did switch to online like a lot of studios, and we tried the live stream and we just had all sorts of issues with it. Our teachers didn't like it. We eventually just started doing everything on demand, and we still have a nice on demand platform, but we've stopped feeding into it. We've got about 400 classes on there, and we just are now catering to in-person classes. We still have some subscribers to our on-demand, but it's slowly tapering off.
And what about you, Lisa, in Sweden?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a different situation where I'm at. So we didn't close down at all.
Oh, we've heard.
Yeah, you heard. We didn't close down, but we went from a space where I normally would have 30 people to 10 people instead. So there was a lot of space, and we did the whole streaming live thing with Zoom, and we can't stop. People love it still, to be honest. So we still live stream all our classes. It's not that many people on it, but there are still that many people on it that really needs it, wants it, and if they are sick or if they are on vacation, they still go on Zoom.
And does that change things for teachers, that they now have new habits that work for live streaming as well as in person?
Yes, they do. Some of them like it, some of them hate it, some of them just got like used to it, I guess. I would say that's my case when I'm teaching. I don't really prefer it. I would like it to be only in person, but hey, what am I going to do? You have to adjust, right? Yeah. And I would agree with previous that what's happened in the studio is that we had a big boom, people coming back post-COVID, but then everything kind of slowed down a little bit. It's still quite slow, and especially I would say for us, it would be the workshops, the retreats, and the courses. Like the schedule and with the open classes are doing fine, and that's booming, but especially workshops going very slowly at the moment. Yeah.
We had a very brief foray with the online classes, really when we were shut down completely to in-person classes. So we had an on-demand class library, and then we streamed classes very briefly. We were closed to indoor in-person classes from shutdown, so March of 2020 to May of 2021. And when I reopened the studio in May of 2021, I was like, I'm not doing anything with online classes. This is an in-person studio. There's so much good online content like yoga medicine that we're going to focus exclusively on the in-person experience and try and do that, as well as we can. So that was our approach.
And what about those larger offerings like workshops, trainings? How are they going for you, Ashley?
They are going really well. We try to do at least a couple workshops a month, and we've integrated some of those special offerings into our membership. So we include them in our membership, and people really like them. We call them Class Plus. So they'll be extended, like 75 minutes or 90 minutes, up to 2-hour experiences. And they usually sell out or come close to selling out. And then our biggest thing, we had 14 in our most recent 200-hour teacher training And Tiffany came this summer, and we filled the studio with the most amount of people we've ever had. We had 38 people in the studio, and it was incredible. It was really great.
So interesting that some of the experiences sound consistent in different places scattered across the US and the world, and some quite different depending on the unique community you find yourself in and how people tend to be feeling as a group. That's interesting. What about the biggest struggle? What's the biggest hurdle that you're facing right now? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I think it's that really figuring out like why do people want to come to us? What can we offer that's really special and unique that others aren't offering? And sometimes it feels a little bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it will stick. Like you think you've got something that's really great, and then it's not, the market really tells you. So there's a little bit of experimentation, there's a bit of trial and error. And, unfortunately, not all of our ideas are what people want. So just being okay with being in that experimentation phase.
I would say, so before COVID, I was actually looking at opening a second location, which I didn't get off the ground, and I'm grateful for that. I'm happy with one. But now I'm in a position where our classes are doing really well. I have 2 practice spaces in my studio. I'm in one of them right now. And so now it's like trying to fine tune the scheduling and where can I have multiple classes going on. We've only done that a couple times and it works out well, but it's hard to know, like, do I want to take away who might be showing up for this class? You know what I mean? Like it's hard to know if we should overlap. So I think it's just going to take some experimenting and plugging people into the right time slots. And that's all. I don't know if that's so much a struggle as just a puzzle to start to sort out.
That's our biggest struggle for sure, is staffing. Now, I mean, we have a wonderful staff of teachers, but we want consistency and recognizing that most of our teaching staff, they're teaching yoga in addition to other full-time jobs. So this is something that they fit into their already, super busy lives. So, and things come up. People get sick, kids get sick. So trying to maintain, trying to grow the schedule and have consistent staffing. And then, like Shannon said, I don't have simultaneous classes going on, but it is like a giant jigsaw puzzle in terms of what classes to put at what times. And I'm always trying to figure out what's the way that I can schedule classes that won't compete with one another or, detract from another class. So it is like it's a giant puzzle.
Yeah, and
what about you,
classes
Rachel?
that used to do well, sorry to interrupt, classes like our 6 a.m. class pre-COVID did really well. And now we have 2 6 a.m.s left on the schedule now. We used to have one every day of the week. And so it's now I'm thinking like maybe we let these go completely and we start a little bit later in the day. A lot of people work from home now, or they have jobs where they can leave for longer than they could pre-COVID. So it's kind of shifted the times that people show up for class.
I think I can echo Shannon in a way, is timing and kind of puzzling everything together. I think we have an primarily older group of people. And so most of our classes during the day are gentle and really geared toward them. And it seems like our evening class then, or our evening classes, which, we only teach 4 days a week in the evening because most students don't want to come Friday evenings and Saturday evenings and Sunday evenings here. So, it's very challenging to then give some of those people who want those gentle offerings in the evenings, because a lot of our dynamic students are more now in the evening. So it's just getting the right people or getting the right classes. That's just the biggest challenge, I think, getting classes in the right slots. So, and classes for everyone.
Keeping everybody happy.
Impossible, but
despite people's conflicting needs and schedules, keeping them all happy is the big challenge.
Yeah. So,
what about you, Lisa? What are you struggling with?
I'm struggling a little bit with the same as Ashley to keeping the staff consistency. Definitely. The yoga teachers tend to be a nomad kind of people as well in my state. So they go traveling every now and then, Bali for a month, India for a month here and there. So that's a little bit of a struggle. But then I would also circle back to the whole thing of getting the workshops filled up, basically. What I notice where I'm at in Sweden is that people don't follow their teachers anymore at the same rate as before, to be honest. So if I would, especially like guest teachers having workshops, that's the hardest part. Like my in-house teachers, their workshops are doing quite fine, but it's hard to invite people. They just really like consistency, I would say, where I'm at. Yeah.
Interesting. That used to be the model, didn't it? You'd have the sort of semi-celebrity teachers making their way around the globe and doing sellout short-term events, but your students are like, we could take it or leave it. I like my local teacher.
Yeah, definitely.
Humbling for the traveling teacher. What about you, Anne? What's the big struggle for your studio at the moment?
To be honest, a lot of what I heard so far, similar thing, a lot of changes in the team, and I would say more than before. A lot of like short-term commitments from teachers. And we know, of course, that consistency is the most important thing to build classes. So I think also there's more conversation with teachers around the functioning of the studio, because I think more teachers have been now developing their own teaching with online options and stuff. And sometimes it's almost a case of reminding teachers, like, what's the benefit of being part of a team and not doing it all on your own, and building the community together to create something. So that's one thing. Workshops, 100% the same. I've been also a bit more reluctant to having guest teachers, because I notice also for myself, it just brings me more more stress in a way, because you have a responsibility when people are traveling, and then if you can't provide like the right numbers, it's difficult. So shying a bit more away from having international teachers coming. And even for our local workshops, like I've been experimenting with different conditions and playing with like new things to try to get people to sign up in advance, because I feel there's a lot of the last minute thing, kind of like, if I don't have something better to do on Saturday, then I'll come. And I think also people have gotten used to the fact that workshops are not full. Because I think before they were full, and so it's like, well, if you don't get it now, it's going to be sold out. And now I think most people know that it's like, well, it's unlikely going to be sold out, so I can still decide till the last minute. So yeah, I've been playing around with different like new strategies, price-wise and stuff, to try to counter that. But I would say that's the main thing.
Interesting.
I'm seeing that too, like last minute signups, even for teacher training. People are waiting until like right before something starts now.
Absolutely. And I've had several cases of canceling workshops, 2 days prior because there was not enough people. And then within that 2 days, having a bunch of people call or write and be like, hey, I'm trying to sign up, but I can't find the link anymore. And then you're like, oh, well, now that would have been enough people. So yeah, it's a little bit of a trust game sometimes, just to be like, it's like, no, we're going to have the right number. You just need to keep it up, because if you cancel, then you're going to regret canceling. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Interesting. So what if we switch gears to what's working, what you've kind of done deliberately or stumbled onto that seems to be really gelling for your studio? Let's start first with the business side, and then we'll talk about the people side and community side afterwards. So who wants to kick off with something that's working from a business perspective?
For us, what's really working is providing a lot of variety we've changed. We used to have, for example, all the morning classes start at the same time. Actually, they still do, but in the afternoon, evening, we now have variety. So instead of having, like a 5 p.m. and a 6 p.m. every single day, it actually changes. So that gives more flexibility, which we're finding works really well with everyone's, work schedules, family schedules. We have a lot of variety when it comes to our classes, which I think is helping too. So people can really just have that flexibility and choose what they want to pay, how often they want to pay. So we've offered that variety. And yeah, with the trainings, we're experimenting as well with having things on the weekends, having things during the week. Again, I just think since we are a newer studio in the community, we are just trying to give a lot of choice.
So what's been working for me from a business perspective is, of course, the schedule that we've been talking about as well. I think the open classes are doing really well. I think packages, a little bit like Ashley also circled into, like when you do plus packages, you can buy a monthly card, but you can add on that sort of sense. That has worked really well for me. And also just having a lot of people coming and going, and I've been working together with other business owners in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So we have been collaborating in different sort of ways, and they are not into yoga at all. It could be like the clothing store or the barber next door doing stuff like that, actually. And that's quite fun. So we're going to have that tomorrow. I'm going to do it with the clothing store. I go into their environment, and I'm going to talk about breathing, stuff like that. So that's a little bit people side, but also business side. I'm not sure where to draw the line. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So circling back for a second, you said open classes are working well, meaning just
yes.
drop in classes.
Drop in classes like my normal schedule. Yes, because we have of course trainings, workshops, and retreats, and then we do courses as well. But just like the normal schedule is doing really well. Yes.
And then the membership of kind of class plus is people can come and do a certain number of classes or a certain duration of membership plus something else, like a workshop or a masterclass or.
Yeah.
Nice. And your relationships with other local businesses are with the aim of you just getting out there a little bit more and drawing some people into the studio who might not walk past and think, oh, yoga, yay, let's go in.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that's also been a little bit of effort, of course, on the community side to just really work on that much more.
Mm. Shannon, you looked engaged. Jump in.
Let's see. So I'm in a position where I feel like the team that we have right now is really strong. And I've had a lot of the same teachers on the team since COVID, and we have a really tight bond. And I've kind of leaned back a little bit more the last few years and let people teach to their strengths rather than say, this is the style we're going to teach here, this is the way. So allowing, teachers to come in, and I've got a teacher who's trained in somatics. And so we have a couple somatic classes on the schedule, one who's trained in more body work, and she does like therapeutic type classes. So it's really neat to see the evolution. We were primarily vinyasa in like 2019, and now we've got just a nice variation or variety of classes on the schedule that highlight what the teachers have studied, and so it's neat to be part of that process and to be able to stand back and to really promote the talents of the teachers.
Does that become a challenge if that teacher then goes away or is sick to get somebody to cover in a similar style?
Yeah, it can be. And so for our regular drop-in classes, we like the teacher who leads the somatic classes. Those are pretty hard to cover. And so we might fill in with something else like a flow and restore or vinyasa. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting myself in the shoes of a teacher being asked to cover that one, going, quick, better watch some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. What about you, Rachel? What's working from a business perspective?
Well, I think for us, short-term memberships, like we did Summer of Self-Care. We've done that every year since I've been here, and it really does well. People are okay to commit to like that short term, but they don't necessarily in the beginning want to just jump in and say, I want a full-time membership. And then the other thing that's odd to me that I think it wasn't, I'm not sure. Like I said, I didn't own a studio prior to COVID, but I've noticed like our drop-ins have really like we really sell a lot of drop-in classes. Like people just don't necessarily want to commit to. So we sell packages of that, and then like Shannon said, I'm very lucky to have had I have great teachers, and although they do have other jobs, there a lot of them are seasoned. They're a little older, and they really show up, and they really they're very consistent. And so even though we have we have three different teachers teaching a gentle class, people get really connected to the way this particular teacher offers that class or what they offer. And yeah, I think that's what's been really helpful for us is just kind of recognizing those patterns. So we try to do like short-term memberships like 3 times a year, and that tends to kind of boost us with memberships. And then those people, some convert, so then they convert after that, and we're great. So
short term, like your summer of self-care would be how long? Like
3 months,
3 months?
like the summer, we just kind of always like from Labor Day or Memorial to Labor Day, or we'll do something special at the very beginning of the year, or we'll do like a short holiday like membership for people who just want to de-stress, and we'll really push our classes that are, more restorative, more like our yin and restorative classes. So.
Awesome. Who hasn't gone yet? Ashley?
Yes. For us, we opened as a really kind of niche studio with, primarily power vinyasa classes. And then for me, what's been exciting and fun to watch is, post-pandemic, now there's opportunity and space to really grow our offerings, and people seem really enthusiastic to try new things. So if we put something new on the schedule, people will come and they'll try it out. And that has been wonderful to see. And it has, allowed us to expand really consistently what we offer. So now, we certainly still have vinyasa classes, but we have a lot of other types of classes too, that we've been able to grow in a way that's sustainable, which has been, really fun to see.
Oh, that's awesome. What about you, Anne? What's working for you business-wise?
So a few things here and there that I recognize, same as Shannon and Rachel. I've actually, even before the pandemic, I've always I've always believed that if teachers teach what they really resonate with and what they feel is really their specialty, then it works better. Because I think they're just more engaged, and somehow I feel like it always sort of evens itself out in terms of schedule balance. So that's always been something I think just works better. And like you say, if the person isn't there, then we just put something a bit more standard instead. And then also in terms of like events or specials, I've noticed that actually putting similar type of workshops or events on a monthly base has worked fairly well. So yeah, I had 2 studios, and then I just let go of one earlier this year, mostly for personal reasons. But there it was so I'm based in Switzerland, and there was in a bigger town, and definitely that worked out really well, just to have this like monthly special. So it could be like a sound journey, or could be like a yin and live music, or even one of our teacher in the team was also just happened to be also like a sommelier. And then on the summertime we were doing this like yoga upheaval. So it was just like a bit of wine tasting on a Friday night after the yoga, like on the rooftop once a month. And so I feel like these like monthly specials have worked pretty well. And so I'm just trying to keep that as well in the one studio that I still have now. And definitely lots of drop-ins, way more than before. I've actually removed, we used to have like 5 class passes, and these I've removed because I feel like this was giving us a lot of, people not so committed, but then a lot of requests for extension. And I was like, okay, so either drop in or a bigger package. And that actually works better. And in general, and I'm doing this also for the workshops, we were saying it's hard to get people to commit. And I've been trying to work out something new. And I've been doing this thing like what airlines do, So for workshops now, we have like a firm ticket, which is a bit cheaper, but no cancellation possible. And then I have like a flex ticket, literally like airlines, where it's a little bit more expensive, but you have options to cancel. And basically, I feel with this and also with changing the packages, it's kind of putting people to just think when they book something like, how committed am I to this? Would I sign up for a 20 class package, or does it feel like too much? And then maybe the drop-in stuff works better, or the 10 package. And then how much am I committed to go to that event or to that workshop, or do I want still like a way out? And actually I found out that even the people who buy the flexible option don't cancel that much. I think it's easier to get people to book with the option that they could cancel than to have people wait till the last minute to sign up.
Interesting. I haven't seen any of that locally. Has anyone else done that option of firm versus flexi bookings?
No, but I like it.
Yeah.
We are seeing more people back out of things and less committed than maybe they used to be.
Yeah. I mean, cancellation is still like, I think 48 hours is the max. Like we still need to know. But yeah, so far I think it's been working okay. So
nice. What about community-wise? Lisa nudged in that direction by talking about building relationships with local businesses and kind of getting herself out there a little bit more, which sounds quite terrifying from my perspective, going to a clothing shop and talking about breathing. Getting a little PTSD from my old Lululemon ambassador days. So what about the rest of you, things that have been working well in terms of your people, whether that's your teachers, your students, your wider community? Who wants to kick this one off?
We have found, at the moment, our kirtan is really popular, which I don't run, but my business partner Dee runs, and bringing people together for things that are more joyful and perhaps more, very community oriented, more fun. Is working really well. We just had a really successful teacher training that created quite a lovely community feeling amongst teachers that live locally, but also some came from about 3 hours away. So they really enjoyed and have been asking us now to do more things like that to connect with other teachers in the area. And even just the small things like being able to support some of the local sporting teams with, gifts or vouchers, and just create that sense of community too. But for the most part, I think in terms of community, it's just the day-to-day people coming in and feeling like they're belonging to something, enjoying the classes. We're very, one thing that's really important to us is consistency. So having the same teachers there and making sure that they're not taking too much time off.
Yeah, that's the hard part, isn't it? But that is the stuff that builds loyalty in students, is coming at that same time of the week to that same teacher and having a relatively expected experience and feeling like a part of something that is repeated and familiar and rhythmic.
We're located on one of the main kind of thoroughfares in our city here in Norfolk, Virginia, and across the street is their name is the Elizabeth River Project. They're a nonprofit that is all about river restoration here in the Tidewater area of Virginia. And so they have an incredible building. They're on the water. And so starting in January, we started doing a First Friday sunrise practice in their facility, which is right across the street. And that's been incredible. They're typically fall, which I had to remove 6:30 a.m. classes. I think, Shannon, you were talking about that. I had them pre-pandemic and I held on for dear life, but they just weren't doing very well. So we have this once a month sunrise practice, and we donate our time and the proceeds to this nonprofit but so it's a way to connect with the broader community through yoga, and it's been really special.
I love that. And I am wondering if the lack of early morning classes is simply from all the sleep research that's been making its way out into the world. Everyone's like, do you know what?
Could be.
I think the extra half hour in bed is going to serve me better.
Yeah.
What about you, Rachel? What's working from a business perspective?
Similarly to Ashley, I have several students here that work at a regional mental health care facility, and so we offer space in yoga classes to both their employees and also their clients, and so that's been just a heart project, I think, more so than anything. But it just keeps us connected, or keeps me connected, rather. Probably it's just more selfishly me, to that community and wanting to give to that particular community, just because, just it's close to my heart. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And then our teachers, my communities within these four walls, like I'm such an introvert, so it's very hard for me to get outside these walls. But my teachers, I've got a lot of extroverted teachers, and so they are the ambassadors that really bring in, I'd say probably like 30% of our students come from their work experiences or their pickleball experiences or something like that. And so the teachers, again, are some of my my biggest allies, and so for me, as a community building thing that I do for them, we have teacher appreciation every October, because I want them to know that I could not do any of this without them. So we encourage our students to gift them however they want to, and then I always do something for them. And so that's the biggest thing, I think. Just keeping both my little community here strong so they can go be the ambassador for me where I can't. So, yeah.
I love that. Selfishly, as a teacher that isn't a studio owner, I would love to have the month of October dedicated to thanking me. That sounds amazing. And it does make me think about what Anne mentioned earlier about how teachers, myself included, I no longer teach in any of the studios that I taught in pre-COVID. I still teach in a couple of gyms, and all of the rest of it is my own stuff for yoga medicine. And so I understand how, for many teachers, the landscape has changed and they're running their own sort of ship sailing through the oceans. And I can see how, as Anne said, and Rachel, as you said, that they might need a little reminding about some of the benefits of being part of a close-knit team and part of a really traditional kind of grassroots yoga community.
And also, I think that you can combine them. It's like,
of course,
because you're part of a team in a studio, does not mean that you cannot also develop your own thing. And then I think that's where things have really changed dramatically. It's like, I think the ways to be, like what it means today to be a yoga teacher can look like so many different things. And so to understand that you can do both. You can also contribute to a studio and be part of a team, and also get the benefits of being part of that community, and at the same time have your own projects, and I think that's where a lot of things have shifted as well. It's just like the amount of possibilities are like huge. So yeah, and then just to jump on what some of the others say, same thing for us. Like, so the studio I have still now is also like a small studio, so very much anchored in community, and I've really enjoyed also doing a bit more collaborations with all the other small businesses. I think there's also something a bit since COVID, which is, at least in Switzerland, is quite strong, that sense of support your local business. And Switzerland as a country, I've discovered is quite protective of, like, the Swiss made stuff, and I think it's nice in that sense. So yeah, collaborating with other businesses of, like Lisa was saying, like sometimes completely different fields of work, but somehow you realize you have similar maybe people that you were talking to, and also, to be honest, that's also just super nice, because it can be lonely, and I think it also broadened a little bit our horizon rather than only working with other yoga teachers or studios. And for us locally also what's worked really well, we've got a great relationship with the local university, which is quite big actually. And we have a lot of projects with them, and sometimes they like rent the studio. Actually even have like weekly classes with the uni, but that I teach at my studio, and it's super nice for the students to have access to like a proper yoga studio rather than classes at the gym from the uni, and so we have a lot of collaboration projects with them, which of course brings us like a lot of visibility. So yeah, collaboration has been really, really fulfilling, and I think brings a lot of creativity because there's so much you can do.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to me like the big overriding theme in this section of the conversation is things don't have to be the way they were before. There are now lots more ways to do things, whether that is in the style of classes that we offer or the relationships that we have with the businesses around us. Lots of collaboration with local organizations and businesses and charitable foundations, which is great. And also lots of opportunities to do things differently inside the studio. You know, we used to talk in teacher training so much about, I teach at a studio and they want me to teach this, and that doesn't feel like me. So what do I do? This was a question that came up in every single teacher training I ever taught. I'm being told I need to teach this way, and that doesn't feel true to me. What do I do? And it does sound like there's a little bit more flexibility now around helping teachers find a niche that they believe in, that they will give their heart and soul to, that then students will hopefully appreciate that passion, as opposed to everybody having to fit a certain model or teach a certain way, which selfishly as a teacher, I like the sound of. That sounds good. Sounds fantastic.
I think even just this 60 minutes class thing is a huge change. Because I think that used to be the norm, that you had 60 minutes or 90 minutes, it was quite standard. And now it's like, yes, I think in the studio schedule, it's a lot of what we have, but then you can have a 30 minutes class, or you can add what's been working for us better in the morning. Like Ashley was saying, it's like we don't have morning classes at the studio anymore. But I had like a 30 minutes pranayama and meditation class that was running really well for a while. And you can completely break this down. You can add a video library of videos that are 15 minutes or, I think that's a big change too. It's like just you need to teach 60 minutes practices. I think it's a huge change.
Does anyone else have classes shorter than 60 minutes in the studio?
Yeah,
I sometimes do, like 30-minute meditation or pranayama. Yeah.
Nice. And Lisa, you said 45?
Yeah, we have 45 lunch class. And then we had like a 30 minutes also a meditation and pranayama, but it's a little bit of an add-on as well, because we have a gym class just ahead of that, so they can decide if they want to stay a little bit extra for extra meditation. Some people drop in, some people stay. Yeah.
Nice.
We don't
Anything
yet,
else?
but I've been considering that idea of like adding it on to the back end of a 60-minute class, so people could either stay or they could come specifically for the shorter meditation or pranayama offering. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So let's head toward the finish line with what are you working on for the future, or excited about for the future, or even apprehensive about in the future, looking forward as opposed to looking back. What comes up for you? And let's start with Lisa. It's been a while since we heard your last big response.
Who knows? I don't really know what the future holds. None of us do, but I'm really looking forward. So just small things like what I did in the studio, as I refurnished my entire like lounge area, so people are staying longer. They're just hanging out. So that's my community vibe as well, so they can just stay and hang out more.
Okay, this sounds like my nightmare as a teacher. I'm like looking at my watch going, I have a private in 15 minutes. Come on, people, you got to put your teacups down and get out of here.
I'm going the opposite direction, just to get more people in-house instead of Zooming. Yeah.
I like it.
I just did the exact same thing, Lisa.
Is that a common theme of people wanting to be in the studio for longer and chat and connect? Is that a common experience?
In my end, yes.
Yes, I think so. I think,
Yeah.
and that's I think for a lot of people, I don't even know if it's conscious that it's the driving force of what makes a studio special, right? Is the fact that you are going to be surrounded, and in community with other people who you have at least something in common with, which is an interest and a desire and an investment of your time and your money to like be at this place and take this class. So that's what I have seen. And again, like Lisa said, we don't know the future, knock on wood. I mean, from my perspective, I'm like, we kind of, as a small business owner, live through what was the worst, which was having to shut down. I mean, we have a breath-based in-person business. So to have it completely shut down to in-person operations for, a year and a half, the fact that we're still here, I think is wonderful. And it just makes me excited for the future.
Who else has thoughts about the future?
We're in this really neat part of town. We're in an arts district, and I recently hung some tracts toward the top of the wall at the ceiling. It's like a tract system, so I can hang artwork. And so we have First Friday here, First Friday gallery walks, and we've started kind of hopping in on not every First Friday, but we've done a couple art shows where we invite local artists to come and hang their studio, because a yoga studio is a perfect place to showcase art. So we've highlighted two artists so far, and I'm looking for the next one. The previous two, we had their work up for about a month. And so it was really neat to, students come in, take class, they see the artwork. We have a big gallery night to feature the artists, and then their work was for sale. Both artists sold some pieces, and it just brought new people into the space, and it gave us something to talk about, seeing the art on the walls every day. So I'm looking forward to doing more of those.
We are working on just growing the events and finding how to bring more people into the studio through the events, creating more of that community feeling. The classes do really well, but for us, yoga is more than just that 1 hour on the mat. So how do we entice people and get them to come in? How do we spread the word about our trainings and just keep doing what we're doing, but grow it, basically. That's the phase that we're in now.
Who else?
Yeah, like I was saying, like just like Lisa, I just renovated again our lounge area to make it even more cozier and inviting. And yeah, I completely agree with what Ashley said. I think, the difference between going to a yoga studio and maybe taking a class online is that you go to this place that has a particular vibe and coziness and the community and the people that sometimes, because we're like a small studio, people expect to see, it's like they have their like yoga buddies for the Tuesday night class. They know they're going to meet, and for me, it's so nice to see, like, if I forget to make the tea as I'm setting up the studio, like the students will put the kettle on and they make the tea because they're going to have their tea and chat. And I love to see the lounge really vibrant, and I'm also really looking forward to the new trainings that we have, because that's also one thing that we've been developing, new modules. And that's also why I like to also have that nice cozy lounge area, because of all the interactions that happened in training groups. That I think is really rich. So yeah, and we have a few new members in the team, and so I'm really excited to see like the new thing that's going to come from that. And we have also the businesses around us. So that side of town has been quite affected by COVID, with a lot of businesses closing around us. And just today I saw the painters were in the place next door, and there's a new coffee place that opened on the other side, and that also gets me excited, because I know also like if the businesses around are coming up again, like immediately I'm just like, oh, let's see how we can collaborate. So
brilliant. And what about you, Rachel? Any things that you're working on or looking for in the future?
I think mainly building community. Everybody's talked about their early morning class on here, and I have resigned not to talk about mine because um, I had a student for like 12 years who was the early morning guy. I mean, he was there no matter what. So I knew I was always going to be there because he was going to be there. And he recently passed away. And so that class since then we haven't had it just because it's just been really tough. It was a very small class anyhow, and they were the ones that stayed for morning coffee and stayed for like an hour after, and we just did all of our things. And so I know how important, though. I mean, there were just lots of little signs about that whole process of losing him, how important this community was to myself and to him. And so just looking for ways to build that. We do have an older population, so we did like a potluck in spring, and we'll have a potluck in fall, and people love that. We don't get together for any other reason but to like eat and talk, and so people just love that. And so I have a great studio. It has a kitchen in it because it's a weird building, but so we just have the opportunity to build that community, and really that's the biggest thing I think for everybody post COVID, at least in my area, was like they wanted to get back together, and I think they realized how much we all just need to just sit and talk. And it's nice to be with people, like Ashley said, that are like-minded. So it's or just here for the same reasons, not necessarily like-minded, but just here for the same reasons. So to set everything else aside and just be at ease. So
Yeah, I think if COVID taught us anything, it was definitely for me as a hardcore introvert, the unexpected potency of physically being with people, especially people who, feel similarly as you do about some things. And I think that has been a really strong theme coming through this conversation of what studios have to offer versus all of the other ways that people can now access yoga paid or for free is that really special chemistry that occurs when people come together, and some of them familiar, some of them are the same groups of people every Tuesday night or every Wednesday morning, and the sort of unquantifiable magic that occurs when people get together in physical spaces. That's the big thing that yoga studios still have to offer compared to all of the other options. And you're all finding more flexible, more creative ways to offer that to people around you. And the fact that you've all survived through COVID and through the 4 years afterwards is a testament to your capacity to keep being flexible and keep finding ways to offer that in-person connection to the people in your communities. Any final thoughts?
To me, I'd just say, just a little bit back to what I was saying before. I think, if we were to look at the silver lining thing, I think as a business owner in general, you always need to have that resilience and to have that creativity. But I think COVID really brought that up. And for me, I do find it quite exciting just to see what else is possible and how else can we redefine what it looks like to be a yoga teacher or to have a yoga studio, and to really just think out of the box and just we try some things that don't work great, and then we can just try something else. But I find it quite exciting in a way, and interesting just to see the possibilities. And I think that really showed that to us, because we didn't know we could do all the things that we've been doing the last 4 years. I think it's exciting in a way.
Yeah. Final thoughts? Anyone else?
Yeah, just to kind of follow up with what Anne's saying, I think it's changed the way that I lead our teacher training programs and what I put emphasis on. And now it's, I see groups of people coming together and really supporting one another and learning how to be their most authentic selves. And that used to maybe not be the most important, part of the training, but it has kind of organically become, just helping people find a path that's best for them.
I love that. Well, you heard it here first. Mornings are dead officially, and people need people. Those are the two big takeaways from this conversation. Thank you all so much for making time in multiple time zones and multiple parts of the world. Thank you so much for taking time to come together. And hopefully our listeners will find some interesting contrasts and parallels with the experiences they're having in their local areas. So I appreciate you all very much. And I will link in the show notes to your studio's social media platforms for people who are nosy and want to see what your spaces look like. I want to see your kitchen, Rachel, and what you're up to and what you're offering. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rachel.
Nice to see everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Yoga Medicine. If you liked the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you got something out of this episode, please spread the word and share it with a friend. You can find more information, articles, trainings, and classes at yogamedicine.com. Check us out on social media as Yoga Medicine, or you can email us at info@yogamedicine.com. Thank you for being part of our Yoga Medicine community.
The content of this podcast is not medical advice and is not meant to replace medical care. Please consult your healthcare provider to determine what is best for your unique healthcare needs.